welcome to One More Thing podcast. This morning I'm with Dr. Larry Baucom.
Good morning.
Hey, man. Kindness was on the docket yesterday, and it's funny. I was talking with someone after the first service, and he was explaining to me how impactful that talk was because he's walking through some things, and he owns a couple of properties, and I want your opinion on this because I hear this too. As pastors, as ministers, as people who want to try their best to emulate Christ in the world, why is it so foreign? Why is kindness such a foreign concept when we take it to places that are strange to people? Like he was saying, man, I did this for my neighbor, and I did this for my neighbor, and I helped with this. And he goes, and I had other people around me who I know identify as Christian saying, why are you doing that? Why are you doing all that? And he's like, because it's the right thing to do. It's a kind thing. Why is that? Why is kindness in that? I don't even want to call it an extreme sense because I don't think anything he did was extreme. But why is it such a foreign ideal for us?
I think we are so much into a self-centered society, self-preservation. It's about me that even in the Christian community, there are a lot of people that come to church. They still have a lot of way to go on their journey.
Right.
And some of them are just shaking their head and go, well, that's not what I want to do. I'm not interested in helping other people change the oil in their car because my oil needs to be changed. Or I can't help clean up somebody else's yard because my yard needs to be cleaned up. And it's the first priority of themselves rather than the priorities of others.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult, I'm not saying that's easy. I think all of us fall into that category in different areas.
That's right.
But it is a nice aspiration to think, hey, I'll help you clean up your yard even before I clean up mine.
Yep.
What? That is countercultural.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's sometimes what the Spirit of Christ calls us to be, is countercultural.
And you mentioned traffic. Like even in traffic, sometimes I'm guilty of if the car in front of me and they're letting a couple of cars in. And in my mind, I'm going, just let one in. You let five in.
That's right. Too much.
I got to get going. I got to get to the store myself. But I think you're right.
My fun game is when I pull down and I'm the guy that goes 3 cars down in the right lane that's closing, and I pull down a little farther, which you're supposed to pull down as far as you can, believe it or not.
That's right.
According to the law. But as you finally get in, and the guy lets you in, and then somebody behind you wants in front of me, and I go, "No way, sucker! you think you can cut me off?" And my kids are just laughing. But the reality is, if you let me in, there's a high probability if somebody comes around me, I'm gonna let them in.
Yeah. Why?
Because someone was gracious enough to me, and I'm not going to let 6 in because that would be insulting the person behind me. But I'll let 1 in. And I think it's a good nuance. And where it's right or wrong, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think kindness, as opposed to rudeness. Mm-hmm. Rudeness is, I'm going to inch up there. There's no way. Yeah. You're not getting in front. I don't care what you do. You stay back there. And that kind of rudeness is unnecessary.
Yeah, I think you're right. Now back to sort of the theological framing, it's one of those fruits of the Spirit. And what I find interesting is when Paul lays out the Galatians sort of admonition, right? Like he doesn't say fruits in the plural sense. He says this is the fruit of the Spirit, right? Mm-hmm. Now, again, there's all these things, and it's like these things come and flow in our life. But that idea of kindness has this transformative power to it. It's God's kindness that leads us to repentance or reorientating our life to focus on God. Why does kindness do that? How does kindness diffuse like heightened agitative situations? How does kindness lead us to that transformation that Paul writes about?
I think that's a good question. Let me start back at the beginning. The fruit of the Spirit is, what are the characteristics of those who live a Christ-centered life? Mm-hmm. What are the characteristics of those who are trying to live a God-filled life? And I don't want to dispute anything Paul says, but Paul's not the only guy who has good things to say.
That's right.
So, but he does. The reason he's remembered for this is because it's so powerful. Mm-hmm. What are the characteristics? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. All these things, but kindness. How is kindness? It's not independent of the others. Love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness. I mean, kindness and goodness kind of go hand in hand.
right.
Which I'm going to talk about that this week. But I don't think it's necessarily, that the overall goal. So I don't think the overall goal is transformation. But when he wrote this,
Right.
I think he's saying, "Hey guys, look, if you want to claim to have Christ in your life should emulate these characteristics." And how we define those, and sometimes we get so specific, which I'm guilty of doing too, get real specific of saying, well, this, to give more clarity. But at the end of the day, if we were to be good old Louisiana, Nashville boys, Tennessee boys, say, hey, let's get together. Let's just talk about what it means.
Yep.
The theological implications, I think, are lived out in the practical world. So what does that mean? I can look at my life, and you can look at your life, and it's better that way than me looking at you and you looking at me.
Yep.
And I look inside and say, man, I guess I was a little bit rude there. And I think I could be. And the thing is, once I start practicing this and the Spirit of God all of a sudden begins to flow through me in a less restrictive way.
Yep.
And it flows naturally because I'm practicing what Paul caught years ago.
Yep.
But even before him, the Spirit of Jesus, the Spirit of Christ, is what Paul captured into.
Yep.
And maybe you go back to the Old Testament and say, hey, here, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength.
Yep.
These commandments are be upon your heart. It's your heart.
Yep.
When your heart's transformed, these are some, and maybe there's 10 more.
Yep.
Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. He didn't start off with rudeness, arrogance, obnoxiousness.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just the qualities of many sports fans.
Yep.
So how do we become kind in the sports world? Well, I'm a Florida State grad and a Florida State fan. 1 win, 6 losses. We've just got our butt handed to us every weekend.
Yeah.
And once that happens, it's a little easier to be kind.
That's right.
when you've been beat up so much.
Oh, yeah.
And then other guys, like if you're a Browns fan, you got to be kind to Browns fans. I'm sorry. They never seem to win a lot. But you go to other teams and you can get a little more cocky. What about Dallas? I know you're a Dallas area, but Dallas has won a lot.
Yep.
It's like the World Series. You got the Dodgers and the Yankees in there.
They've won a lot.
Who cares? I mean, but I should not be arrogant or dismissive. I need to live my life with kindness, not rudeness.
Yep.
And traffic,
Yep.
kindness, not rudeness. Now, I think that you still have to obey traffic laws.
Yep.
Fair enough?
Yep.
And there are things that annoy me, traffic. What really annoys me is a guy on a bicycle, because one guy's riding down the sidewalk, and he expects to be a pedestrian. The next guy is riding the wrong way in the bike lane.
That's right.
And the third guy thinks he's a car. The problem is I don't know which guy you are.
That's right.
And all of a sudden you cut in front of me and you're in the middle of the lane. I'll go, wow, you're on the sidewalk a minute ago.
Yep.
And you're really not abiding with the general rules of the road. And I look at that and go, probably not best. But when I let that agitate me, then I need to pause and say, really, Larry, is that enough to really get your goat today?
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be.
That's right.
And unfortunately, too many friends I know, they're looking for everything to agitate them. Or they're so tense, anything will send them off the rail.
Yep. Yep.
And I think we need to take a deep breath. And I love what we're doing in these breathing exercises within it. It's a subtle psychological,
But it works, man.
stress technique. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, and then say this, everything, every day is a gift, I mean, we show it, we live it, we make it happen in our lives. And I think that's part of what we're doing.
I think that's, even in working out, when you're lifting weights, they tell you, breathe, because when you're under that stress, that tension, you just want to,
keep
you're
breathing.
tense. You got to breathe through it, and it's amazing how the body will react to that breath. And here's the last question, and it's something that we touched on yesterday, and we I think we could have went deeper with it, but time is what it is. The idea that kindness often gets relegated to just a kind thought, a kind feeling. What's the secret sauce to say, I could catch myself when I feel agitated or irritated, and I could catch myself when I'm thinking kind thoughts, right? When I'm just thinking fondly of someone. How do I get it from my mind, from my head, into my hands, from the thought into the action. Like, what's the secret sauce to say we know kindness when we see it, and we know rudeness when we see it, and we all would agree it's better to be kind. And I know most people have kind thoughts, but we don't act on them. What's missing?
I think compassion. I think that's a secret ingredient, that I need to be more compassionate. I need to hurt when my neighbors hurt, and I need to hurt when others around me are hurting. And when I'm hurting for them, then I think my kindness is a natural response. If I'm not compassionate, or if I block that off, and we can,
Yep.
you can say, "Oh, I've got my own issues. You deal with yours, I'll deal with mine."
Yep.
Or, "That's your bed. You made it. You lay in it."
That's right.
But I think that's when I'm hurt and I see them hurt. For example, I visit someone in the hospital. I said in one of the teachings this weekend, and she is a 40-year friend of mine. And as I went there, I saw my mother-in-law in her and my father-in-law in her.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of seniors that I've seen have just lived to where they're 90 and they're on the last stage of life. And I have so much compassion that kindness comes out of that.
Yeah.
I think when someone has a shoulder injury, I'm very kind to them, or a back injury, or whatever they're going through. Someone for you that's gone through a hell of a divorce, and you see that, and you know that, and you've lived it, and your compassion level is higher for that because of the rawness of that experience in your life.
Yep.
So I think that's where we make that happen. And secondly, I think it's a choice. I think you choose.
Mm-hmm.
I choose to be kind today. I choose to show my kindness today.
Yep.
And I think that's something that we do deliberately. But and I go back to this, reflection, connection, and there's a response because of that reflection, because of that connection.
Yep.
I am more compassionate, and I am more proactive to help people.
Yeah.
And I think it's a game changer.
It is. Kindness matters. So you're up again, relating kindness and goodness this week. I can't wait to see what you do with it.
Oh, it's gonna be fun this week.
Thanks a lot.
All right, my pleasure.